Hey, hi, my name is Craig Dickerson. I'm the president of Fishing for a Change. We do retreats for PTSD relief for service members and first responders. I also wrote a book called Diagnosis Psychotic Through God's Evil White Wormhole. And basically, the reason I wrote the book was to try to elevate our cause, Fishing for a Change. And it's addressed in my book, PTSD. There's several times it's addressed in the book, and a lot of other mental health stuff that's addressed in the book. Why I wrote the book was to try to elevate the mental health awareness of several issues that have happened to me throughout my life. I've walked the back end of the mental health issue process all of my adult life. And so I have intimate knowledge about things that affect me because I have to be able to correct my thoughts. I have to be able to correct my thoughts when they start spiraling out of control. So I wrote the book for that. How I got the title, very interesting. I had thousands of concussions as a kid, and I also have a very weird thing where I do dream hopping, what I call dream hopping. And basically, I will dream something. It's just not it's just everyday dream. It's not, I don't wake up and go, oh my God, that was really intense. I don't remember it. All of a sudden, I will be in a situation where it's the exact situation, exact surroundings, the exact conversation. I will be able to tell you what that person is going to tell me next. I will remember the part of the dream being in it. I will see 2 or 3 flashes into the future, and I get really nervous because they never end well. They've never ended well, and so I get really nervous. I wrote a few of them down here in the book. I didn't write them all down because I couldn't remember them all, actually, to be honest with you. It's an odd phenomenon, and I've ran into some people that actually have that. So if you do have that, maybe we can get together through the YouTube channel or whatever, and we'll have a good discussion about it because it's pretty weird. But anyway, so how I got the title was through the concussions and what I believe to be CTE. I'm fairly sure I have CTE. I've got all the symptoms. And the dream hopping, I finally got to a neurologist and said, hey, what's going on here? It's kind of odd. And I said about 3 sentences to her, and this was her exact quote. She said, you're psychotic. You made bad choices as a kid, and I can't help you. Well, shoot. I probably did make bad choices as a kid, and you probably can't help me. But, if I'd have smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day for 6 years or 60 years, you probably wouldn't have said that. You'd have said something a little more, I don't know, a little less obtuse, I guess would be the word I'm looking for. So anyways, that hurt me a bit. It was a hard pill to swallow because I've been called crazy most of my life because of those concussions and how it affects me, which we will talk about. I've been called crazy. I do crazy things. I'm just not scared. And so that's basically how I got the title of the book. It also gave me lots of leeway to write a lot of crazy things. So I hope you enjoy the book. I tried to make it a little humorous, but there's ugly things in there that I talk about. So what do I talk about that's ugly? I talk about basically in the first chapter is called Pay Attention, and how my dad enforced that into my brain to pay attention, and what I learned over time that you need to pay attention when somebody's abusing you. You pay attention to a lot of things. You watch that sucker every moment of the day to make sure he's not going to come get busy with you. And even then, you're not safe because when you go to sleep, they might decide to come get busy with you then. So child abuse would be my first thing. We're going to cover our second podcast. We'll go into how it affects me, how long it has affected me, and what I have to do, how I learned to fix it according to up to this point, and what I have to do to keep it under control. And hopefully sharing those things, my tools in my toolbox, will help some of you with that part of your life. I want to make perfectly clear, I am not a professional. I'm not going to give you any professional advice. I'll just tell you how things affect me and how I have to walk the process to try to undo it. Okay. The second thing we will talk about in the third podcast will be concussions. Concussions affect a lot of people, and especially if you get them over and over and over. We will cover what it does medically. We will cover what it does to me and how it affects me personally. We will cover how I can't understand it is still being perpetuated. It seems to me, since it is permanent and you can't fix it, you can't diagnose it, I don't know why you still do it if you can't fix it. That seems to me a little counterintuitive. But hey, y'all have at it. So I'll try to talk you out of that, but you keep going if you want to. They're working hard to mediate it, but it's not fixed, and I can prove it. So we'll talk about that in podcast 3. Podcast 4, we'll talk about the dream hopping. The explanations I've tried to come up with medically, which, they weren't all that soothing. Oh, so just one quick thing. So the concussion thing is you can ring my bell, which is the answer I used to get when I got my bell rung. And he just got his bell rung. He'll be all right. Yeah, I got my bell rung all right. So then we'll do the dream hopping and try to explain that, and then how it affects me. Try to figure out if we can find a way to explain it, or just whether it's just prophecy and somebody's messing with my head. I don't know. It could be the Matrix. It could also be that, a glitch in the Matrix. So we could talk about that as well. And then the fifth podcast we're going to do is a mental health industry and PTSD. So PTSD is a big thing for me. We've come a long way, but we've done some things that have changed the path and really haven't helped the situation as far as I'm concerned. I walked in, and I will talk about that a lot, how I came to be concerned even more these days than I was when I was a kid. I was first aware of it as a kid. They called it shell shock. And so we will talk about that, what they did back then, what we've learned since then, what we've done about it, and what I believe needs to happen, because it to me, we'll actually have 2 or 3 podcasts on this, because it's a problem. It's still a problem, and it's a dangerous problem. Next thing we will cover would be podcast number 7, would be on the nonprofit. So I do nonprofit Fishing for a Change. We do retreats for PTSD relief for service members and first responders. You can check me out at Fishing for a Change 7 on Instagram. I'm also Fishing for a Change on Facebook. You can also get a look at us at www.fishingforachange.org is our website, where we try to lay out what our mission is. It's a pretty good mission. I believe what we're trying to do will help mitigate a bunch of the problems. Hopefully, as I talk about it, number 8 will be why you should start a nonprofit, because the more the merrier. We can try to get this help, the better off they're going to be. And it's obvious it needs a new path. So we'll talk about why on podcast number 8 you should start a nonprofit. I believe I don't tell people anything. I don't walk up and say, "Hey, you need to do this." I mean, I don't. But what I know is I was really wounded. I was really hurt. I had to learn how wounded and how broken I was before I could fix myself. And then once I understood all of those steps, well, then now why don't I share that? So I've got a strength now, and I want to share it and help people. And I believe that there are a bunch of people out there that have strengths that they can share. It doesn't have to be fishing. It could be ceramics. It could be bushcraft. It could be something that is task-oriented, focused outdoor activities for these people. But any kind of nonprofit that helps people, doesn't serve people, but it helps people. I don't like serving people. That means I'm going to go over and give you something. I'm going to go help you get better, but I'm not going to give you anything. I don't serve people, right? People don't serve me. people help me. It used to be that way, right? We used to help each other. I would go, if I had, I was a crop grower, I would grow an extra acre of corn for the blacksmith, right? An extra acre of corn for the doctor. The doctor would give me a year's doctrine for an acre of corn, right? My strength was I grow. His strength is his doctoring, right? It used to be that way. We monetized everything, and now it's all about grab for yourself. I will say this correctly, as I will say it every time. I used to fight every day of my life, every day, to gather for myself and my family. And I would fight you and anybody that wanted to stand in front of me. Since I went to a nonprofit, I've had nothing but good come my way. People, I go up and tell them what I'm trying to do, and they say, oh, that's a great idea. How can we help? Jeez, I don't know. Nobody's ever said that to me. How can you help? So, I don't know. How can you help? Well, help me, please. I can't do social media. I've had a guy help me with social media. I can't do fundraisers. I've had a guy help me do fundraisers. You know, how do I do a website? My friend helps me do a website, shows me do this, do that, do that, right? So they help me with their strengths, and I help them as best I can. So basically, that's the goal of the podcast, to try to go through the book. We'll talk about mental health industry. We'll talk a lot about how I believe we should move forward, and I'm going to stand firm on it. I've got intimate knowledge. I've walked the path, and I don't think I'm perfect, but I have a path and a plan and a means. I just need a means to get there, and that's hopefully what this book will help with. Is part of the proceeds will go to the nonprofit. You can check it out at www.dorrancebookstore.com. Diagnosis Psychotic, Craig Dickerson. They will ship one off to you. You can wait for the book tour. Hopefully I'll go on a book tour, and I'll be happy to sign one for you. You can contact me directly, and I will sign one and send it to you. How about that? So then the last thing I'll talk about real quick is I talk a lot about religion in here. I talk a lot about God and religion and how I feel about those things. And I talk a lot, you know, I get to the point where I'm saying a lot of things about a lot of things. And I've said my piece. It's in the book. So I'm sure that people want to come get busy with me about what I had to say. And basically, when it all comes down to nothing but nothing and nothing, right? Just do good things. That's all I say. Just do good things. Love God with all your heart, right? Jesus said serve, right? Or, serve, love God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Those are the only things that I say. That's the conclusion I get to. I can do it. I will do a little segment on religion, and we'll talk about just these things of why I said what I said. But, you know, I don't want to make this a main focus, okay? As I said, serve, love God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. So anyways, religion and me don't get along well. God and me have our own relationship, and that's how it should be, right? Me and God have come to our own agreement, and you don't like it, I'm sure, but it's mine, and we deal with it on my basis because I have to live my life, right? And then hopefully, as we get along and we go along, I'll keep reaching out to some professionals, and we'll see if we can get, you know, I've got a person I know that was a nurse and an inpatient for the VA. Say right up front again, I probably didn't say it up front, but the VA has the premier mental health program in the world. They will walk you through things that you never thought about, should you choose to listen. That's where I got my tools. I was really struggling. It tells about it in the book. I was flying around with nowhere to go. No one wanted to take me. And that was scary for me. I'm sure I was being scary because I was diagnosed as being psychotic, right? So with all that being said, I hope you come to the next podcast that we have. We'll try to keep them upbeat, even though they're negative subjects. I know it's something that I feel passionately about, and so I don't talk all ooh and ah about it. Let's address the situation. We see a problem, let's address it and fix it. And there's no walking it or hiding from it or closing our eyes to it anymore. Let's take care of the problem, especially regarding our service members and our first responders. These people were wounded in the service of us, right? And so it should be the government that's taking care of them, but since they're not, I'm saying let's get busy with it. Let's take a different path, and let's try to help some people. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed this podcast, Diagnosis Psychotic. I'm going to try to get it up on the YouTube channel, Fishing for a Change, some segments. And until next time, I hope you tune in to the second podcast, which will cover basically child abuse and how that affects me. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.